Hey there everyone, this is Jeremy, the Music Andy, coming to you today with a album review on Squid's Bright Green Field. With this being my first video, I wanted to focus on an album that I already knew I loved. I already know that sends me on an emotional roller coaster, and I could go into depth about talking about. Squid is a 5-piece art punk post-punk band from Brighton, England. They were released through Warped Records and produced by Dan Carey. Dan Carey is interesting to point out because he also had a hand in making Black Midi's first studio album. I feel that is a good comparison between Squid and Black Midi, and it's interesting that they were both produced by the same people since both have influences in post-punk and noise rock. They also contain a little bit of prog and experimental. However, they differentiate in that Squid has a much more groovy, kind of funkier approach, while Black Midi, I would say, has a more mathy, jazzy feel in their songs. With that bit of backstory, let's get right into the first album from the lads in Squid. The album opens up with a 40-second haunting intermission. This track contains textures comparable to only that of a metal fan scraping against metal sheets. Some vocals are heard, but they cannot be made out because they are very distorted, very slowed down. I think it's an interesting way to start the album, going straight with an intermission, 40 seconds, and you can't really get any music out of it. At first I didn't really enjoy it when I first heard it, but upon review I think it is a very good approach. Their previous work with Town Center kind of came off as comical at times. The themes would often be very serious, but the way that Ali, the lead singer, would present them would be very comical, forcing me to laugh at him sometimes. He is a singer that holds a wide range of emotions and has no trouble displaying that at all at front center. With that being said, I think that this shows the fans that they're going to be much more darker on their approach, much more serious on their approach, and they're going to have much more of a patient ear when it comes to listening to this. Bang Bang, GSK comes in with 2 sharp percussive notes strong enough to grab your attention immediately. We get a brief pause followed by what I can only describe as a beefed up Home Depot bass line. It's a creeping, groovy, sexy bass line that's immediately followed by falling trumpets and sharp angular guitars. The synthesizer also helps create a dome-like effect around them, containing all the noise within and preventing them from kind of leaking out and getting too experimental. The lyrics on this track are very simple and straight to the point. Ali's talking about big business and just business around the world pretty much. The monologue at the end has the perspective of somebody driving home from work. The only thing that they think about is the very basic needs for once they get home, such as hoping for a warm dinner, hoping for their company's success so that they can keep making more money and keep their job. However, in the very first line, he states that he is flying through the windshield while speeding along. This creates the scene in my head of somebody crashing, but even in the moment of crashing, they're still only thinking about their business because it is literally their life. Even in the moment of an accident, the person cannot stop thinking about the success of their business, hoping that their dinner is warm when they get home, and that everything's going to be alright. I would also say that the instrumental takes a much more progressive feel than the previous Squid songs that I've heard. Much more were just kind of opening, chorus, verse. This takes a much more linear passage. A song that's constantly evolving, does not repeat itself in nature. Narrator is the next track with guest vocals from Martha Skye Murphy. It's totaling in 8 minutes and 28 seconds. After a short intermission of the instruments trying to find their footing in the song, we get a groove that I could only be comparing to Talking Heads. We got a bass and a guitar quickly bashing, clashing into each other, trying to take spotlights from each other. The guitar fill at the end of each bar had me replaying it over and over. It's fast, it's technical, but it's super fun to hear it on my ears. Another short intermission allows for a more dynamic experience with Martha and Ali both performing vocals at the same time, intertwining between periods. I will say that the tones definitely complement each other. Ali and Martha are very well recorded in this, very well produced in this, and they're hitting a lot of the same notes together, and it is a very enjoyable listening experience. A short breakdown comes from a haunting performance from Martha that is accompanied with murderous guitar strikes and very swelling synths. The third act of the song showcases a very glitchy performance from the synthesizer player. I would say up to this point, many of the members in Squid have not been able to show what they can do in the driver's seat besides Ali. And once the synthesizer player is able to showcase it, I just am the biggest fan of it. The bass, the drums keep a solid floor for him to just glitch out completely and steal the show. Collecting energy from the vocals of Martha and Ollie, the bass player erupts to keep the music train plowing ahead. Overdriven bass riffs and glitches bounce back and forth as Ollie keeps the chaos perpetuating forward by crashes on his drum set. The song showcases the growth of a post-punk funk band into a band of experimental and prog elements. This is definitely one of my favorite tracks on the album. Track 4, Boy Racers, continues a similar pacing as the rest of the album so far. Very pronounced bass hooks and very calming guitar lines create for a relaxing dance environment. The synth adds a great texture of pulsating electronics, furthering the reason why I love this synth player so much. Ollie's vocals on this track are very soft, very lush, but often sarcastic. His range impresses me every time I put on a song because I want to see the emotions that he displays and how he wants to convey that feeling back to the listener. The song halfway catches a stop and it goes into what I can only describe as an alien abduction. I mean, honestly, the hovering reverb of the synth and the distorted vocals have me ready to see a gray face as soon as I open up my eyes when I'm listening. I have to say I'm not much of a fan of this section of the song. I don't feel like it adds much to the listening experience. Up to this point I was presented with very interesting lyrics from Ollie and very danceable groove beats. If this section was just for listeners, to calm down, I can understand it, but for 4 minutes I feel like it could definitely be cut down to 1 to 2 minutes. Dig holes like a mole. This is Paddling from Squid. We are welcome to another vocal performance from Ollie. However, this time he also has the rhythm guitar sprinkling a little bit of vocals. New features on this song come from an electronic drum set that gives a metronome-like feel, kind of a tick-tock clock. The vocals from the rhythm guitar player are also matched to his notes. Vocals are phrased to the guitar while creating an eerie atmospheric feel. Bright flicks from the synth sound like a door stopper at times. Ollie comes over, a brief pause, kind of sounds like a PA system from a school, kind of forces you to listen to the message that he's trying to convey to you. This song has one of the best ends, very dynamic, incredible instruments, very driven and very powerful individual performance laced all throughout the ending of the track. The next 2 tracks kind of mix up the album a little bit, get away from the basic song structure of quiet to loud. These are 2 very melodic pieces, very slow in build-ups and very focused on the instruments at hand. Documentary Filmmaker, which is the next track, has very spacious keys to it and very lush horn sections. The repeat of horns and keys are eventually met by Ollie's frantic vocals. They do their best to catch up to it, and that's exactly what they do. The horns begin rattling off notes faster than we have previously heard until they begin to untighten like a rubber band being thrown aside. The lyrics, the eggs are cheaper, the day after Easter, again shows another distaste for the business world that we lived in from Ollie's perspective. They are the same product the day before Easter and the day after Easter, again showing that business will take advantage of any situation they can to make a quick buck on you. 2010 is the next track and it has a very heavy Radiohead in Rainbows feel to me. We have a lot of arpeggiated guitar notes and heavenly backdrops just like in Rainbows. Again, very soft beginnings, however this time the band does not allow for suspense to boil over, immediately going into a 7/8 math noise love fest. Very explosive guitars and heavy drum strikes fill the air for about 20 seconds before we go right back into the previous rhythm that was created. This is when the song never finds peace and stagnation ever again. Layers of noise and effect again are constantly evolving, showcasing this new prog art feel from Squid. We find ourselves greeted by another intermission, this one titled The Flyover. But unlike the first one, we have a little bit more information from the album this time. This album, I would feel, has been slowly unwinding itself with every single track that's been going on. From established grooves to freeing drone moments that begin to let your mind wander a little bit more, thinking about the themes that have been discussed on the album thus far. The Flyover continues with horns from the previous track, but this time it creates an escapable wall of noise for about 1 minute and 10 seconds. All minute and 10 seconds are filled with nothing but walls of noise and has me ready for the next trio of songs ready to come up. Let's put fax machine noises and printer sounds in our punk band. Said no band ever. That is until Squid's next track, Peel Street, came into reality. This song has all the enjoyment of listening to a printer press while also having the enjoyment of punk music in your ears. This track serves as a gut punch to the listener, very heavy distorted guitars, very yelling, aggressive vocals. Adrenaline racing is definitely the overall feel on this track until it is met with a quick style change. Marching band style drums and Ali telling me that he's always been told what to do make me feel like a soldier to the music. Another quick gunfire of music fires off until we are into a dreamy end. Global Groove takes charge of the next track, again discussing complaints about the current societal world that we live in, references to people tapping away to a global groove that the government creates to be another cog in the machine. The instrumentation on this track is the most left field that we've ever heard from the band this far. I would say it's very industrial, very angular guitars with a slower, more immense pace. The band sounds like the very machine that they are describing that we are all tapping away to. Ali, however, does not want to be a part of this machine anymore, saying that he's sick of tapping away to the global groove. Last but not least, Squid ends their album with a 8-minute epic labeled Pamphlets, another song focusing on business and consumerism. Squid definitely creates their funnest track of the entire album on this one. The fill sections in this song are definitely some of the most creative and unique that I've heard from each of the instruments. The guitar at times sounds like a slot machine being hit for jackpot 777. The bass, again, as it is throughout the entire album, is creating a floor, but not at the expense of being unique. I would definitely say super funky, incredibly bouncy, and just overall fun to listen to is the words that I would use to describe the bass line on this one. The lyrics, like I said before, focus on consumerism and businesses willing to shove anything down your throat as much as possible while creating false promises that they have everything that you need. I feel like this track does a good job of wrapping up all the themes that has been talked about on this album, also showcasing the instruments of every single member in the band. This album is without a doubt one of my favorite albums of the year and an incredible debut album for a band. I'm feeling like this album is 9 businessmen out of 10. Let me know what you thought of the album and other albums that you would like me to listen to and do a review on. Please subscribe if you enjoyed the content, and I hope to see you in the future.